You're just too good to be true. Can't take my eyes off of you. You'd be like heaven to touch. I wanna hold you so much.
Hello and welcome to the SBC and Showbie Making Learning Visible training for an early years setting. This is our professional learning package, which is of 3 pre-recorded sessions, and this is video number 3 today. For you to watch in your own time, and then we're also going to talk about an opportunity to meet face-to-face at a Showbie support and sharing practice session, which has got it right for the 3rd time in a row at some locations across the borders. So the structure of our session for this Showbie professional learning package, after our early year Showbie training sessions from last year, we took on board the feedback from delegates and they felt it was a little bit fast-paced at time, so we're going for a shorter pre-recorded session this year to allow you to pause throughout the presentation, try out Showbie on another device at the same time, and also to watch it at your heart's content. Throughout this presentation, feel free to pause or replay parts at any time. Go at your own pace, and there's also opportunities for you to pause the video so that you have some time to reflect. You can see on screen as well the details of locations for in-person support sharing sessions which you can attend. You only need to attend one if you would like to, but if you fancy coming to more, you are more than welcome to do so. We do ask that if you sign up on Business World to access these sessions, it will give us an idea of how many people are attending, as we have some limited space in these locations. These sessions will give you an opportunity to share your practice with others if you'd like to, learn from other practitioners as well, engage in a Q&A session and ask any troubleshooting guidance questions that you have. Today, so I'm Roddy Graham, I'm Inspire Learning Lead Teacher and Apple Professional Learning Specialist. We also have Kirsty Baggs. Say hi, Kirsty.
Hello.
Kirsty is Inspire Cluster Support in Early Years, and we also have Kate Brown.
Hi.
And Kate is our Early Years Teacher Team member.
Okay, so as Roddy said, this session number 3, is focusing on making learning visible. It's the actual interaction that children are having with the Showbie platform in a very similar way that they may have engaged in their paper copy, but it's really about giving them also additional opportunities to reflect upon learning, talk about it, consolidate it, and Showbie, the amazing platform it is, allows us to capture that in a variety of different ways. Last week we were talking about the use of the classes function in order to create our digital learning journals, and our first session was really looking at the strength of making those family partnerships, whether we're using the groups function, which was our focus for session 1, but also we're building that in when we're talking about the use of the classes function. And once again, of course, we're using digital technology here at early level to support children's learning, to be active participants within it, not just solely as a tool for adults. Let's look at the session, this video's session 3's aims. So we're building upon the skills that we've already recapped. We're learning about how the children can be involved. Roddy will walk us through the amazing features that Showbie actually presents to give us those new opportunities to engage the children with their learning. And once again, we've got a few case studies just at the end so you can see how some of our SBC settings have implemented the use of the digital learning journal through classes and what they're doing to engage the children within that. So making learning visible with Showbie. First of all, what is making learning visible? Well, we've got a page on the portal which really breaks this down with key messages, where it's relevant with the guidance, but it's really about engaging the children in the learning process. When we are recording learning in floor books, we're facilitating the children having those conversations about what it was that they were doing, what they were learning within that, reflecting back upon that, and it's allowing children to actually recap, talk about, verbalise what it was that they were actually learning to do. It provides us with that opportunity. Showbie does that in exactly the same way, and we can keep going back to reflect upon it in the same way that really good practice with our paper learning journal copies is having them available for the children to take out within their play sessions, engage with them independently or with their friends, because that is the ownership that they have over that document, that they are regularly looking back. They know where it is, it's accessible. Showbie can work in exactly the same way, but often due to the fact that it's on our iPad, it's about providing the opportunity for practitioners to work with children when they are uploading that evidence of learning initially, but also maybe in a group time or with a couple of children, they have the opportunity to actually scroll back upon learning that might have taken place a few weeks before. So, to the documentation. This is the Harvard Graduate School of Education report, which was in 2022. And the quote that we've chosen here to really illustrate that what you can achieve as a group in talking about it and actually, sharing it can actually really enhance the learning that's taking place. So in our settings, this might look like a child reflecting back upon their learning, telling their friend about it, recording it to share with parents. Can I share to Showbie? Gives them that opportunity to actually think about it and bring it to life to ensure that that learning is consolidated upon. The Making Learning Visible project began and it was inspired by an awful lot of good practice that we see in the Reggio Emilia, which is really there to promote they really recognise the benefits of group learning through the use of documentation. The documentation is making the learning visible, so it can be tracked from start to finish. You can see how a particular interest or skill was enhanced and facilitated, how they actually progressed. And again, that the children are involved in that it's not just a progressive document that maybe we might use in our SBC trackers that actually just tracks the skills. It really brings that learning to life for the children, with photos, with their voice there, and actually sharing it to others allows them to continue to have that back and forth to see how their ideas or their interest actually evolved. So let's look at documentation. Documentation itself makes the learning visible to the educators, to the students, to the parents, and to others involved. And when we talk about documentation, we're talking about, as I said, the process of learning, not just a checklist that we might have on our tracking. It's the story of how actually it has developed and progressed. And of course, wherever possible, good practice is that it's individual to the child, it's specific to them. Documentation is a tool to make children's learning visible. So it allows the children to reflect upon the learning. It cements the learning in their long-term memory. A bit like when I have memories from my childhood, the clearest one are the ones that I have photographs of, no doubt because I've looked back at them so many times. It's that whole process of making learning visible. The documentation and the reflecting are very much intertwined. Documentation. So, how does Showbie work with our documentation? Well, good documentation, really effective documentation, involves more than one medium. Pedagogical documentation could be described as visible records or recordings, children's work, written notes, photos, videos, and it enables us as practitioners, our parents and our children to discuss and interpret and reflect back on what is happening from their different points of view and how that has evolved across time. We make choices about the best way to proceed, and sometimes the reflecting on an event, an experience or an activity that happened maybe a few days ago, a few weeks ago, may also inspire subsequent activities. They reflect upon an amazing building they did, they remember the hilarity when it all fell over. I have often seen that actually the children will go back to recreate that moment, and again, that's the cement, that's the reflection, the consolidation, and I've no doubt they'll do something different. It'll be bigger, it'll be more exciting, there'll be a bigger crash. It's also compiled during the learning process, and the beauty of Showbie is that it is portable and it allows you to actually record, whether it's quietly when you're observing, you can be taking pictures, but you can also engage the children with recording their thoughts as it's actually happening, rather than taking the picture, emailing it, printing it, and then sitting down a few hours later or often the day later and getting the child to reflect upon that activity, that piece of learning that is already way in the past for them. It's the process over the product, which is we all recognise as in early years practice that it's the process of learning, the piece of work that actually is the result at the very end. Whilst that's important for achievement, for a sense of pride, we recognise that it's the learning that's taken place to get to that point. And Showbie will allow you to record that very, very easily, whether it's a video or whether it's lots of different photos showing the process from start to finish. And sometimes if we haven't got the portability of something like Showbie or your iPad, then you might actually only ever be able to capture that end product. And the end product might not be anything to do with the actual learning, the core of learning that was taking place while the child was busy at play. The analysis of the actual process. Showbie allows us to actually record the children's thoughts as it progresses. So that could be in a video, you might take little shots of video, but we can record the children's voice reflecting on specific aspects that can be actually embedded within the process itself. Similar as a floor book, you might have lots of different pictures demonstrating the process, but actually Showbie allows you to record their ideas as it's progressing it, keeping it really relevant, really real, really current to what the child is actually thinking about. It informs future planning. Through our analysis, it is important to actually take the opportunity to revisit that learning, but also think about, in terms of children's next steps or following the children's interests when they've looked back upon a particular piece of learning, what do I need to do next for that child to extend and to deepen that learning experience further? And of course, the ownership for the children. The children need to be the co-creators. They must feel the ownership of any documentation. It's one thing having something within easy access, but if they are not involved in actually posting different things or writing notes within a paper floor book, then it loses its meaning for the child, which is why during this session we're going to find out how we can use the tools of Showbie to ensure that children have that ownership. We recognise that for an awful lot of practitioners, the move to a digital learning platform to record and document learning is associated with some anxiety, because will the children be less engaged with it? Will they have the opportunity to reflect back as often as they do with a paper copy? And we're going to show you today how that can be done really easy, really effectively.
So if you've been with us for the first two videos, you'll know that part of these training sessions are the case studies. The first of two case studies in this video focuses on Tweedbank Primary ELC, where I am based. And this one is all about making learning visible, with the learners themselves showing you how they are doing it in the setting. So you'll see Katie's progress at Tweedbank in using Showbie and using it independently as well. So use your camera to scan the QR code that is visible there now, or have a look in the description for the link to that. And hopefully you'll find it really enjoyable, because this is the stage that you can get children to in a short space of time. So I'm now going to take you through some of the technical aspects of Showbie for supporting children to reflect on their learning and to increase their independence in using it. Some of the things that I'm going to be covering today include the use of QR codes, how you as a practitioner can set these up for pupils to use, how to print them off to get the generic QR code for each child, and also how to use it live in a way of getting pupils to sign in to Showbie. We're going to be opening some files up. We're going to be looking at the pen tools as well. We're going to be using the voice notes, the comment button, the dictation tool as well, so that pupils can say their words and have the iPad writing the words for them in text form. And also how to upload from different apps as well. So we'll look at some other opportunities for sharing from other apps on the iPad straight to Showbie. A little note on the QR codes. Practitioners must make sure that QR codes are stored privately somewhere. They aren't accessible to everyone. A child's QR code with Showbie is their password. It is their account details. So store them next to their name with a photograph, and make sure that's in a really safe place that not everyone has access to them. I would put a name and a photograph beside it as well, so that they know which QR code is theirs, and they don't accidentally log in with someone else's account. So we'll show you some screen recordings just now of those features, and hopefully you'll find them useful. So we're going to start this demonstration off with a bit of QR code chat. So you need to be in a class to find where the QR codes are. If you click on the spanner once you're in the class, you get your little option menu, including members. When you click on members, the first part of that gives you students, and you can see that we've got Ben and Emily there. And the top part of this menu is get QR codes. So if we click on that, you can select just the individual pupils that you want, or you can select everyone, and you can choose get QR codes. Now it does give you that caution that we mentioned earlier, that they should be treated just like passwords, so don't publicly share them, don't have them up on your walls and your settings, have them somewhere safe and secure. But once that has been generated, each student will be given their own QR code. You can see Ben's there, you can see Emily's there. When you click on share codes, it will download them as a file, so it becomes a PDF document. You can email that, you can save it to your files on your iPad, and you can see the file like so. So if I go save to files and student QR codes, and just call it Ben and Emily, then what I will do is once it's saved on my iPad, I'll open it up in files, and I will show you very quickly their QR codes. So all they would need to do is once they've been printed off and maybe popped into that folder, they would scan that QR code and it would open it up as them, as Ben's learning journey or as Emily's learning journey too. In order for them to do that, now I can't actually show you this on the app, but you can see the kind of basic premise of it. If I sign out as me, you will see a menu that says already have an account and sign in. The option there is sign in with QR code. If you click on that, you can see that it opens up the camera. If I was to then scan a QR code that was in front of me, it would automatically sign them in to Showbie. Okay, and it just works so swiftly, and it's a really great tool to add in. I'm just going to very quickly sign myself back in now, and then I'm going to hand to Kate, who's going to talk about a little something to do with QR codes in use.
So it's worth mentioning that the QR codes and the signing in as the child, that's probably something that you will build into your practice as the children gain the skills and knowledge about what Showbie looks like, being guided through an adult's login. Then you will begin to build in their independence as the year progresses. Because remember, this is a tool that's used throughout the school, so facilitating the children uploading and sharing to Showbie themselves stands them in really good stead for that transition into Primary 1. It's also worth noting that if you would like to get achievements or news from home, you can create a specific learning space for that. So in our class that's organised by curricular area, there's a folder called News from Home. Again, you'll have got the picture that I like control, I like to know where things are going. So if the code is shared for the student account, then that allows the parents to log in as the child, and then they can drop photos in, they can drop messages in, all about what they're particularly interested in or something that's particularly been fascinating them. And you can see that Ben has dropped in that he's learnt to ride his bike. There might be photos if you have that as a parent too. He's also very interested in space. So me as the practitioner in the setting, oh, that's a brilliant, interesting topic, Ben. And we discussed it when we were in setting. We watched this video. You might like to show mum and dad at home, so we've put there the link there. So again, you're inviting parents to share what their child is particularly learning or interested in at home, but you're also building that into your practice, your provision, the experiences for that child in the setting. But you're also then saying, well, you know, he really loved this video, you might like to share it back, so that there is that engagement in that sharing, because parents buy in. If you're not engaging with that, then they'll stop sharing to it. So we have sort of advised settings that good practice is maybe at certain points of the year, send the QR code home, but ask for it back in. And you might find within a key worker group that perhaps you nominate 2 children, maybe in over a fortnight period, to take their QR code home. And then in your key worker group, they have an opportunity to show their pictures to the group, and then the code comes back. And the following fortnight, it's another 2 children. So again, just making that manageable for your practitioners, but also meaningful for the children and the parents.
Okay, we're now going to look at opening a file up. Now, we looked at this in the second session. To open something up, you can just tap on the image or the file that is there, and it will generate a version of it on Showbie. What we're going to look at today, though, is the annotation tools that are really interesting to use. So there's annotation tools here at the top. The first one is the pen tool. If you click on it 2 times, you can choose the pen colour and also the thickness of the line as well. And then you can do mark making on the screen. So if you want to highlight a particular area of work that's on a photo, you're able to do that. I'll see if I can do a little example of that just now.
Or for example, if your piece of learning is all about going on a shape hunt, in order to consolidate with the child, you've gone on your shape hunt, you're posting to Showbie, get them fine motor skills to actually go over the shape, and you can be talking about the properties as well as developing fine motor opportunities.
You can also highlight things as well. So if there was particular pieces of text work that you had that you're wanting to highlight over, this adds it in as an additional layer, so you're still able to see the writing that is on top, and this highlighter tool goes underneath. There is also a rubber as well if you want to get rid of any mistakes that you may have made. The next one is our comment tool. So you can see down here that there's already a comment in here, an example
with a typo. Note the typo.
Well, it's quite modern, is it not? The N-E.
Yeah. Yes, shorthand.
Yeah, it's like a kind of Taylor Swift song of some sort. But you can see the comment that is there. If you want to place a comment on, you just need to highlight the button that is highlighted there. But the beauty of this is you can control where it goes. So if you wanted to make a particular mark up here, you can click there and then write that comment in. Again, you can use emojis in here to make it more visual for people. And another option that you've got, which I can't show you because I'm screen recording, but this option down here on the keyboard is the dictation tool. And that means that you can speak the words into the iPad and it will convert it into text. So it's a great way for introducing young learners to writing, because they can say the words that they want to say and they will appear on screen as the iPad hears them. So a really interesting way of using that. The next one that we've got is our voice note. So we can see here that there is a voice note that Kate has placed in. Again, I can't show you this in the screen recording because my voice is being used to record these words. But if you tap on the voice recording, it's the same as the comment one. You click where you'd like it to go. You hit the red record button to make your recording, and then you press save and it will add it in like Kate is here. And again, you can move this on screen to wherever you want it to go. So it could be you putting some feedback on for a child's bit of work. It could be the child talking about their work themselves, and you can place it where it needs to be.
So if the child was talking about different aspects to the picture, you could do multiple notes. That if it was, say, that they built that house, this is what I did here, that bit fell over, and they can be multiple notes within it. So again, you're capturing the process, not just the end product.
Yeah, and the last one is a text box tool whereby you're able to click and type in a comment, and rather than it appearing as a hidden or visible comment, it is always as part of the document in there too. It's not one that is often used in nurseries, I have to say. Generally they use the text comment one like this one here.
It can be quite hard to read.
It can be, yeah, it can be quite fiddly too, but the beauty of the text comment one that we've went through already is you can click it to view it and then click it again to hide it as well, so it doesn't always have to be shown.
Are those text comments editable? So
yes.
Should you wish to remove my typo?
Yeah. So if I want to take away the 3 and replace it with an E, if I hold down the comment with my finger, it brings up a sub-menu. I can then edit it. I can go back to here and change it to that. Okay.
So that certainly for me is very reassuring, because I get quite hung up on handwriting or spelling, and actually everything within Showbie, bar obviously voice notes, so you'd have to re-record, but all text can be edited, which I think is extremely liberating for those of us whose spelling maybe isn't their strongest.
Taylor Swift wouldn't like it as much.
No, she wouldn't. But you can also, when you do that menu button, by holding it down, you can also get the option to delete it as well. So if you no longer want the comment to be there, you can do that too. And it's same with the voice notes as well. You can also rename the voice note too to say what it is that is being spoken about in the recording as well. Last thing for this session in terms of Showbie demonstrations is how you can use other apps and integrate the work from those apps onto Showbie. So there's an example here that I'm using Sketches Schools to do a circle art piece of work. So I've got a number of different circles that I've made with different colours, given it a wee title of Circle Art 2. I want to now share this image to Showbie. Now you could, for example, take a screenshot, but that would include all of these tools down the sides as well. And I'm not really wanting that, I'm wanting just the actual artwork that I've made. So if I tap on the three-dot menu at the top here, on other apps it will be different menus, but you're basically looking for this share arrow, which will be as part of pretty much every app on the iPad.
The Sharrow.
Sharrow is what we call it, yeah, it's a lovely, lovely name. The Sharrow there, you can see you've got all these different choices for where you share it to, with one of them being Showbie. So if I click on Showbie, it then gives me a list of all the classes and groups that I am part of. I will then scroll down to my Learning Journals by Term 1. I'll choose our Term 4 option, and I just want it to be onto Ben's because it was Ben that made this piece of artwork. So I'm going to rename it and call it Circle Art. Make sure that you've got the right pupil, the right location for it, and then you can press Add Image at the bottom. That will take a little bit of time to upload depending on the Wi-Fi speeds that we've got here, but once it is all green at the bottom, it should just disappear, and that is its way of saying that it is live on Showbie. And then with a bit of luck, when I go over to Showbie, that image should be there. But we need to just wait to see if that is going to be the case. It's all Wi-Fi related. So here we go. It says your file has been uploaded. It's giving us a lovely little bird sound. And then when I go to Showbie in Term 4, what should be there on Ben's bit of work is his circle artwork. Ta-da! So if you look for that share arrow and the Showbie logo, you can move things and share things very quickly from one app on the iPad to another. And you can see there that I've not got the tools down the side, it is just the work that has been created.
So just a quick word on learning conversations. We can use learning conversations to support children to understand themselves as learners. Practitioners should model and make explicit to the children what they notice about their learning. For example, wow, you are concentrating really hard on that. Or I noticed that you found that tricky at first, but you kept going and you persevered. Or you counted all that way back from 10. Practitioners cannot expect children to reflect and discuss their learning if adults have not previously demonstrated and provided the language for them. Showbie not only supports practitioners and children to talk about learning together, but it also supports parents to engage with children to talk about their learning together as well. So practitioners could model these conversations for parents, and then parents can use the documentation on Showbie as a springboard for learning conversations with the children. So look at what you're learning to do here, or look what you've done today and look what you've achieved. You can either type these learning conversations, or record learning conversations with children on Showbie using voice notes. Just don't forget to name it and date it. So we've just got a quote here for you from How Good Is Our Early Learning and Childcare. It just helps us to consider whether we are having regular learning conversations with the children in our setting and what we are then doing with this information. That's key to support and extend learning. Showbie can help us document these learning conversations, as I previously said in the previous slide. So now we're moving on to independence, and just a little section here on how we can support children to be more independent in using Showbie. We've got another quote here from Higuelk, and it's just asking us to reflect really on how much we are actually supporting children to become more independent in their learning, and how we are supporting them to make use of digital technologies as well. So bringing those two things together. So on independence, the early level portal states a child's confidence and self-esteem develop as their independence grows. Independence encourages children to be sociable, more self-aware of their peers and sensitive to others. It teaches them to be self-motivated, become better decision makers and master new skills. It provides them with the belief that they are competent and capable of taking care of themselves, now and in their future adult lives and workplace. So it's very, very important. And realising ambition states that everything we do in ELK and primary should be about helping the child to grow emotionally, socially, physically and cognitively, which independence does brilliantly, obviously. So when we support children to be independent in using Showbie, we need to consider various points in order to scaffold learning. So firstly, to modelling and responsive report. I'll start again. Modelling and responsive support. This might be when adults in your setting initially start posting to Showbie themselves, using groups or classes. Practitioners can talk through with the children what they're doing, or it might be giving responsive support by showing the children when the children are keen to try. So by clearly modelling the use of Showbie to children, it exemplifies how it's used in the moment in practice. This also benefits early literacy development as children understand that adults are writing for a purpose and posting to Showbie for a purpose, to document learning. So also direct instructions useful. Practitioners should spend time with the children to instruct them on how to use Showbie in a child-led and responsive way, of course. Very briefly introduce it to them if you have a gather time, or try sitting down in a space in the playroom and invite children to engage with you, and they can choose whether they do or not. The instruction part is quite key, and this applies to all apps on the iPad. Children need to be instructed on how to use the technology so that they then can go on to learn through it. Explain to children that they can access Showbie at home if they want to, and that they can talk to their parents about what they've been doing in nursery that day and how they've been using Showbie. By taking a lead using Showbie, children are building skills to be able to use Showbie independently in P1 and beyond. Some children might not be ready for it. It's important not to push this agenda before the child is ready to do it and has the capacity to engage with it. So that moment of inviting children over, those that aren't ready for it will naturally not come to you. Settings also need to consider how they create predictable routines, boundaries and systems around the children being independent in the use of Showbie. Will children need to ask to use the iPad? Will it be available somewhere in the playroom for children to freely use? Do the children know how to use their QR code? Once you've started that up and established it, where will the QR codes be kept? If the setting plans these carefully and scaffolds the development and learning around the use of Showbie, the children will then be better supported to become more independent in using it themselves. Also, another important step to independence in using Showbie is learning other skills first. So it's the understanding that child development means understanding that children will need scaffolding in other skills before being able to use Showbie independently. Therefore, to be able to post to Showbie, children will need to use other skills first. I feel like I've kind of hammered that point. Does anyone have a think in your mind now about what those skills might be? You feel free to pause the presentation now to write a few down, to discuss it with a colleague. But examples might be: use the camera tool to be able to take videos, so they need to learn how to do that first so that they can then do it through Showbie. They could learn to make an iMovie first and then learn to post it onto Showbie, share to Showbie. They can learn to use the voice notes function on the iPad to then be able to share that to Showbie. And they might need to be taught how to use the speech to text function so that they can write something in text next to a photo that they post. ELK children are allowed to use the shared iPads. So in your school setting, there are shared iPads for the younger half of the school to use, and they are available from ELK to P3. That has been confirmed by the Inspire team. We've consulted with them and they've confirmed that. Again, if you need any support around this or conversations, just give us a shout. And also the children are allowed to use the adult iPads in the room too. Practitioner iPads should be seen as a tool to enable you to facilitate the children's learning. It's not just for adults to use for their own paperwork and their own needs. It's there for the practitioners to be able to share that with the children.
So as we discussed previously in the video, children will be learning to use other apps on the iPad, not just Showbie, and there is various different points where you can use different apps to upload evidence to Showbie. So here are some examples of apps that you will find on your self-service app store, and these are all available to download for free, and you can use them in various different ways to share learning to Showbie. So for example, you've got Pages in the top left hand corner there. Pages is the Apple version of Word, so it's a word processing and design app. You've got Clips and iMovie, which are the middle two there, which is for making movies. Clips is generally for short form films, and iMovie is for slightly longer ones. Obviously you've got your camera app, which is great for taking photographs and videos with, and there's lots of different filters and features that you can use there to support the learning with that too. Bottom left, we have Book Creator, and that is for creating books, digital books. So some people have used that to create their floor book evidence in learning, and it's particularly useful for outdoor learning and other projects that you might be doing with your iPad too. In the middle, in the bottom, we've got GarageBand. This allows children to mix and create music in a digital fashion. Sketchy Schools, which is the pen icon. This is a bit like Paint, but it's a lot better version. There's different tools that you can use there to create artistic designs. And Keynote, which is Apple's version of PowerPoint, and there's various different ways that you can work with that, from presentations to GIFs to movies, you name it, Keynote can pretty much do it all. There is support for iPad use, which is currently being developed by the Early Years Inspire team, and there'll be a series of bite-sized videos to develop and support these as time goes on. But in the meantime, something that you may wish to consider doing is completing your Apple Teacher badges. You can do this by scanning the QR code that's on the slide just now, or just Google Apple Teacher and you'll find that no problem at all. These are self-paced badges that are on the Apple Education website. You can sign in with these with your own personal Apple ID, so don't use your Glow email with this. The only reason we say this is that if you move authority, so if you're working in Borders but then say, for example, get a job in Orkney, you will lose your Glow email address, and that means that if you sign in with your Glow email address on Apple Teacher website, it means that you'd also lose access to your Apple Teacher badges. So sign up with a personal Apple ID, just use your personal email, and that'll guide you through that. Some other sessions to signpost you to: the Inspire Early Years team are also going to be hosting some digital skills cafes throughout the Borders in October and one in November. The dates and times of those are on the screen just now. We will confirm the exact locations and schools that these will be held in due course, but we'd love to see you at those. You'll be able to learn how to use your iPad more in your setting, and also to engage in some professional discussion with others as well. So those details are on screen. Sign up on Business World for those, and we'd love to see you at those in October and November. Last case study that we've got for you is a bit of an interesting one. There was a conversation that 3 members of the Tweedbank ELC staff had about the impact of Showbie on them, their workload, and in their setting too. It was designed to be a kind of a short, maybe 4 or 5 minute conversation, but it turned into a lot longer discussion than that. So the full 20-minute video is there on YouTube by scanning the QR code or by visiting the link in the description, and you'll be able to watch a really detailed conversation about the impact that Showbie has had in a nursery setting with practitioners. So they're not people from Showbie, they're not necessarily part of the Inspire team, although Amy Simpson is part of the Inspire Early Years team. These are practitioners in Borders Nursery talking about the impact of Showbie. So please have a look at that. It's a really good conversation to listen to. And another wee reminder of our Showbie practice group that we've got for practitioners in the Borders. Sign into Showbie, go to the group section and click on the spanner, choose the join a group section, and then enter ED8F33 and you will join our sharing practice group. It's been really well used this term, and it will hopefully continue to be that way as we go through this session, to get both technical support and also pedagogical too from our little team that we've got here, but also from you guys as well. You're more than welcome to answer any questions or ask any questions on there as well.
So hopefully in this session we've managed to achieve these aims that we set out at the beginning of the session. Feel free to pause this slide to read these more closely. If you have any questions, feel free to ping us an email. We hope you found this session useful, and it'll give you a good foundation to start or enhance your Showbie journey with making learning visible. Like I said, please do get in touch. If you want to become, if you want to take your Showbie knowledge that step further, there is something you can do on the Showbie website, and you can become a Showbie certified educator. The only caveat with that is that it is directed at primary, secondary schools, but it does give you a really full understanding of how Showbie can be used for different purposes. So if you feel that you want to extend that knowledge, your knowledge and experience of Showbie, you've got a strong pedagogical knowledge, and you can apply that and adapt what Showbie are telling you on that Showbie Certified Educators course. You can adapt it for early years, then I would say have a go. Okay, I hope this has been really useful for you, and we look forward to seeing you soon. Bye.